What's up, y'all? Welcome to Political Fight Club. I'm Robert Durden. This episode is about that Illinois amendment that I was pointed to by somebody on Savvy Sab's show last week. Whoever that was, thank you. I don't know who it was, but you're the hero of the day, and this is great. I would never have seen it without you. So it's Amendment 11 is what it's called, and it's up in the next election to be voted upon. That's November of of 2022. Excuse me, and it basically bans right-to-work laws in Illinois permanently. And that's awesome. The article I'm going to read to you from is illinoispolicy.org, and you can tell they're trying to maintain some semblance of objectivity, but they're actually trying to demonize the amendment quite a bit. And it is kind of funny. That's why I'm reading you this article, is because they do their best to say that it does these horrible things, like makes it easier for teachers to strike, and it makes it easier for people to keep their kids out of classrooms, especially if there's COVID and stuff like that. It makes it much easier to collectively bargain, and I'm just like, these are kind of awesome things, actually. And so they call it Pandora's Box in this article, and I'm going to read it to you. But they end up making the amendment sound pretty badass. And then I'm going to read to you the actual amendment. It's only like 2 paragraphs long at the end, so you can judge for yourself whether or not they're being objective here. So this is from illinoispolicy.org. It was written about 2 weeks ago. Proponents say a constitutional amendment would be about keeping right to work out of Illinois, but what it really would do is boost the power of public employee unions to make demands that state law couldn't control and taxpayers would be expected to fund. The proposed constitutional amendment, filed by State Senator Ram Villavalam of Chicago and passed by the Illinois General Assembly, is now set to go to voters November 8, 2022 in the general election. Senate Joint Resolution Constitutional Amendment 11, or CIRCA 11, or SJRCA 11, we'll just call it Amendment 11, is being sold by proponents as a barrier against any future legislation that would attempt to make Illinois a right-to-work state, where agreements mandating that private sector employees join or pay fees to a union as a condition of employment are prohibited. But Amendment 11 does more than that. The broad language could drastically expand the ability of public sector unions to strike, keep children out of public school classrooms, and potentially hike taxes. Potentially hike taxes. I never saw that in there. And he doesn't even explain that. He just tacks that on as if, and that's a Republican fear tactic. They just go, oh, everything that is has to do with unions and socialism and us working together, that's going to make your taxes go up. No, it's not. Amendment 11, that proponents dub the Workers' Rights Amendment, would prohibit any law that, quote, interferes with, negates, or diminishes the right of employees to organize and bargain collectively over their wages, hours, and other terms and conditions of employment and workplace safety, end quote. Sounds pretty good to me so far. The specific prohibition against right-to-work laws is tacked on at the end of the language almost as an afterthought, adding the prohibition would include, quote, any law or ordinance that prohibits the execution or application of agreements between employers and labor organizations that represent employees requiring membership in an organization as a condition of employment. So that sounds pretty good to me. Basically, it's saying that if any state or city laws or ordinances come into play that interferes with union rights or safety precautions and stuff that unions would bargain for at their jobs, that the unions would be able to supersede, the union's decision would be able to supersede that law. And that's a good thing, because a lot of the people that make these laws that govern these large bodies of workers at these factories, they're just these, fat cats like Darren LaHood, the guy that runs my congressional district here in Central Illinois near Peoria. He's a fucking dimwit Republican dickhead, and if he has the decision over whether or not a whole bunch of people at a factory have adequate pay and adequate breaks and adequate time off and adequate safety at their place of work, he's an ultra-capitalist. He's not gonna vote for that. He's gonna cut corners everywhere he can. City council members as well. They don't give a shit about these workers. So I'm totally fine with unions being able to more or less bargain for these things, and then those laws within the union and that company will supersede any local ordinance or state law that interferes with that. So I don't see the problem with that, but I'm going to keep reading to you here. You'll get the idea. Amendment 11, the amendment just passed by the General Assembly and now headed to voters, opens Pandora's box when it comes to collective bargaining in the public sector. Amendment 11 would put union contracts above laws passed by the democratically elected representatives of the people of Illinois and could prevent limits on the subjects of collective bargaining for public employees. Yeah, democratically elected, my ballsack. We all know that the unions are way more democratic in their functionality than our democracy, even on a citywide level. So again, this is a more democratic way because they take union votes on what these laws within the union become. They work together and cooperate, and that to me, like he's arguing, he's like, no, I think that we democratically elected Darren LaHood, so he should be able to decide what happens in these factories. Or we democratically elected this city council member who's also corrupt as fuck, and I want him to be able to. No, we don't elect people democratically in this country. You get positions of power in Congress and even on a city council level, mayoral level, gubernatorial level because you're rich. That's how it works in this system. So don't kid yourself. This is a more democratic way to decide how these workers are treated, without a doubt. So, for example, the General Assembly could pass a law mandating a certain level of background check for school bus drivers or disciplinary procedures for teacher misconduct. Given that unions could challenge such laws as violating workers' constitutional right to bargain collectively over such terms and conditions of employment, the amendment could potentially prevent such statutes from taking effect. And so, like, let's say, for instance, they pass a state law that if you're a teacher or a school bus driver or whatever, and you've had a DUI in the past 20 years ago, that you can't now work at that job. They're saying that the union has the ability to decide whether or not that will exclude you from the union and it will exclude you from that job. So, like, I don't think that the government... call me crazy, I'm not authoritarian like some. I don't think the government should be able to decide what black marks on your record keep you from certain professions. I think the unions that are made up of people working in that profession should get to decide what punishment there should be for certain misconduct in the profession, and also the inclusion and exclusion criteria for the people that work there. Let them decide. It's not like they're just, because these things become unions, that they're just going to let every fucking person with every horrible past, like a career drunk, as a school bus driver. No. They get to decide for themselves. I'm just saying that's more democratic, and since they're the people that make up the profession in the area, or make up that factory, or this sector of society in a city, let them decide who gets to be part of their profession and their union. So I don't see any problem with that whatsoever. And this last sentence is hilarious. Listen to this. It could also undo any measures that would rein in public school teachers' ability to strike. As if that's a bad thing. It's like, oh man, it's about to make it easier for teachers to strike. Look out, Pandora's box is opening! No, teachers are absolutely downtrodden, and part of the reason that they got in the position that they are right now is because unions have been busted so hard in this country that the teachers' unions are weak compared to what they used to be, and they really, that's how you're going to get teachers paid $70,000 a year and make it so they don't have to buy their own supplies, and so that they can, take some time off here or there, and they don't have to be driven insane and work, 10-hour days and then go to Walmart on the weekends, which they actually did in Oklahoma. Oklahoma cut down certain parts of Oklahoma cut their school weeks down to 4 days a week because the teachers couldn't physically make it work going 5 days a week, and they were all going to Walmart, which was actually paying them more than the school district was, so they physically could not keep the teachers from going to Walmart, so they had to cut down their school week. So let's not have teachers be in that situation. Let's make it easier for them to unionize and make it easier for those unions to strike. Yes, absolutely. They need double or triple what the average teacher makes right now is what they should be making. And that's because we have a system that's ultra-capitalist and doesn't allow these types of unions, and that tries to, crack down on the formation of unions and the strikes that ensue once there are unions. Prolonged strikes, by the way, not these wiener-ass strikes that we got going on at McDonald's once a month on the 15th for like 8 hours. That's not going to work. Unions need to be able to form. We need to make it easier for them to form and therefore break up union-busting techniques. And then the strikes will be prolonged after that. So lastly here, The amendment could also put taxpayers on the hook for more costly provisions, as everything would be up for grabs in bargaining over government union contracts. No. Okay, and this is where they, that's obviously ridiculous. That makes no goddamn sense whatsoever. So what I'm saying here, guys, is that this is excellent. I'm not a lawyer, so like that jargon that I just gave you right there, I don't entirely understand it 100%, but I've read similar amendments, and an amendment that was called Amendment 13 that was put forward by that same guy before, and it has similar language. So I don't see any loopholes here. I feel like this is just fear-mongering on some rich dude who wrote this. Now let's read it real quickly here. You decide for yourself if this leaves any big loopholes open or whatever. Section 25, Workers' Rights. A, employees shall have the fundamental right to organize and bargain collectively through representatives of their own choosing for the purpose of negotiating wages, hours, and working conditions, and to protect their economic welfare, safety at work. No law shall be passed that interferes with, negates, or diminishes the right of employees to organize and bargain collectively over their wages, hours, and other terms and conditions of employment and workplace safety, including any law or ordinance that prohibits the execution or application of agreements between employers and labor organizations that represent employees requiring membership in an organization as a condition of employment. Basically, no more right to work laws, which are that's union busting laws. And as we know, guys, in states that have a lot of right to work laws, let's say you're a plumber and this is a deep red state, and not my state, but let's say the state you're in is a deep red state and you're a right to work state. You as a plumber in that state will make about $1,200 less a year than a plumber in a non-right to work state. So when you allow unions, you get hundreds of dollars back a month, even on something like that, when compared with another state that does have right to work laws. So they fearmonger about this stuff because these corporations don't want to have to pay their employees a living wage. So that's why you have yuckos like this guy that wrote this article writing articles like he does. So I'm going to be pushing Amendment 11 heavily, and again, thank you to whoever pointed that out to me. I will keep you guys up to date on it, and as the election comes up, I'll put up a couple of videos going over it again, reminding people to vote, and I will, of course, be voting for it. Absolutely. So keep fighting the good fight out there. I didn't get Ian's episode up today. I think I'll have that up either later tonight or tomorrow morning. And I'll also get you Chapter 8 of Matt Taibbi's The Divide, Big Frauds, tonight or tomorrow morning as well, depending on how much time I have. Keep fighting the good fight out there, guys. I'll talk to you later.